So welcome. And the main purpose of tonight's webinar is to talk about the business planning worksheet that I released last week. So I'm assuming that the majority of you guys are here because you've downloaded a copy of that or seen that. So welcome. No one has a copy of that. Let me get you guys a link here so that you can download it. Just 1 second. So how are you guys tonight? Where are you from? Do we have, I'm always surprised that we always have some people from out of the country, outside the United States. So where are you guys all from? Just take a moment and enter in the chat box. There we go. There's in Australia, Quebec. Love it. Brazil. So definitely some people from all over. Moore, Oklahoma. Hi, Michelle. Stillwater, Oklahoma. Hi, Blair. Love my fellow Okies. Toronto. All over. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Let me get you this link really fast. So if anyone doesn't have the download, you should be able to get it off of this page. It comes attached to an email. So here it is. Here you go. That way we can all kind of start out on the same page. So before I get started, I'm going to walk everybody started. Does anybody about the business planner page? You've downloaded it. You've taken a few minutes to go over it. Does anybody have any questions? Just throw me some questions in the chat box if you've got any, so that I know I can cover them as we walk through this. Anything specific? Well, we're going to talk about the 7 basic business systems, and this worksheet encompasses all 7 of those. So it's designed to keep you on track on an ongoing basis so that you're not just putting a system into place. It will help you keep a system going in your business as your business grows. And the way I'll kind of do this is I'll start walking through each of the segments of the worksheet, and then I'll hop over the chat box and see if anybody has any questions. So a couple people just threw out some questions, and I will definitely talk through each of those and address each of those questions. So pull up this PDF, or if you have a printer nearby and you've been able to print one of the worksheets out, we're just going to dive straight into it, and you can go back and listen to that first video where I actually talk about the 7 systems, or I'll kind of briefly walk through each of them as we hit each of those points on the worksheet here. So let's just jump right in, and between sections on the worksheet, I'll hop back over to the chat box and see if there are any questions I can address for each of those sections. So first of all, this worksheet is designed to be a weekly worksheet, and the whole point of it being a weekly worksheet is these are activities that you need to do in your business, or at least think about or reflect on in your business on a weekly basis. I'm a planner. I think everybody knows that about me, and I, over the course of the years, have actually divided my activities into what do I need to do on a daily basis, what do I need to do on a weekly basis, what do I need to do on a monthly basis. And so this worksheet is basically this is what you need to be doing in a weekly basis. This is what you need to be doing on a weekly basis in your business. A lot of ease there. So if you're printing this out, the first thing I would tell you to do is fill in that first blank. What week is it? Then, just to dive straight into the systems, of the 7 basic business systems, the first one, and probably the most important one, is your customer. And on a personal basis, this is not exactly easy for me all the time. I would actually say that the customer system is sometimes the hardest. And it's definitely the point where I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle. A lot of times when you're having trouble selling something, and I don't know if you guys have ever felt like that you have a product or a service and you just know it's exactly what you want to do and you're trying to sell it and nobody seems to be buying it. Most of the time, if that's the problem that's happening, you're dealing with an issue in your customer system. And the only way to kind of rectify that issue is just to get back in touch with your customers and just connect with them. And another interesting fact about this is the bigger your audience gets, or the bigger your customer base is, the harder it is to connect with them. And on the personal level, that's why I love diving into things like this webinar, because I feel like I get to interact and I get the one-on-one questions. And it really makes me feel like I'm starting to understand and really be able to help people. But on a weekly basis, there are a few activities that are here. These are going to be easy. This is more of a reflection activity than it is something tangible. But the first two things start with an L, and that's that you need to be listening to your customers. You just need to be where they are, hearing what they're saying. Have your ear to the ground on what's going on with them. That might mean that you join a local group. If you're I try to give examples for all this, and if you guys can think of an example while we're talking about this, feel free to even throw out your own example in the chat box. But if you are working with local businesses, maybe you join a chamber of commerce, and that would be a great way. Maybe you attend the meetings, and that's a great way for you to connect with what local businesses want. If you're a baker and your primary revenue stream is kids' birthday cakes, maybe you spend time, getting to know local moms in your area and finding out what they like to plan for birthday parties and things like that. So it's really easy. It's really easy to do that. The next thing you need to do is you need to be learning from your customers. A lot of times, especially as businesses grow, we start to think that we know what's best for our customers. And I think that it's really important to always have an open mind and say, when the customer base shifts, it's time for the business to start shifting. And when you start a business, that isn't necessarily what you need to do. Sometimes you do need to be educating your customers on how your product or service can benefit them and help them. But you always need to be listening and learning from them about how they're really interacting with your product and service. The next 5 things on the customer list are easy to remember because it's the vowels, A-E-I-O-N-U. And these 5 customer vowels, if you want to call them that, are things that just are going to help you sort of understand your customers better. The first one is, what's their ambition? What do they want? What do they want out of life? What do they want out of business? What do they want out of personal goals and activities? And your answer on that's not always going to be the same every week. It's like your customer is growing and changing. This worksheet's going to grow and change. And this is just supposed to be a reminder to check in with these things and stay in touch with them. The second one is emotion. How's your customer feeling? This is going to change simply because the seasons change. How does your customer feel about spring or winter or the 4th of July or Christmas or, holidays and things like that? What issues is your customer dealing with? And again, this is going to help keep you in touch on a regular basis with your customer, especially in the marketing arena. If you're catering to moms and they're planning kids' school activities, the issue that they're going to be dealing with in August is getting their kids back to school. Obstacles are similar to issues. What are they having to overcome? And this might be more of a personal level. So if the mom's trying to get her kids back to school, and that's really where your customer is at that moment, maybe she's fighting fatigue or overwhelm in her own line of work. So really being able to identify with her on those things is going to help you stay connected. And then the last thing is understand. And Stephen Covey, one of my favorite authors of all time, wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a book that totally changed my life, said, seek first to understand, then be understood. And this isn't necessarily going to just get you far with your customers. Seeking first to understand on any level is just going to get you far in life. If you are always trying to listen instead of be heard, people are going to tend to be willing to work with you more. It's going to work out in business and in personal relationships as well. So that's a rundown on that one. Does anyone have any questions? I just popped back over to the, we're just doing audio tonight. Sabine, the I was issues. What issues is your customer facing? If anybody has any other questions on that, feel free to throw them out at me. I'll move on to the next one. I'm going to try to be respectful of y'all's time tonight. We're at 8:15 my time, and I want to try not to go over an hour, although I'm happy to answer questions, but I just do want to respect your time. So the second system is a website, and I think we all know that in today's day and age, no matter what kind of business you're running, you need a website. It's a big mistake I see a lot of brick and mortars make. I had a few questions during the course of the launch of this e-course. A few people asked me, does this information apply to brick and mortars as well? And my answer on that is resoundingly yes. Brick and mortar stores tend to overlook a lot of the, it's not even internet business, maybe it is internet business practices. I was going to call it internet marketing. That's not really it is. But internet business practices, they seem to think that they don't need to have a place on the internet because they have a place in real life. And that's absolutely not true. So you need a website. Your activities on a weekly basis for your website are going to be really simple. First of all, just do a brief check. You could check a page at a time. You could go through the different pages that you have on your website. But just go through and check, just read through everything, make sure everything's current. If you do it on a weekly basis, a page at a time, it keeps you from having to go back and do major updates later or redesign an entire new site and put it up later, which is a lot of money. As I know many of you guys know you've done that. Next thing is fix anything that you find broken. This might be broken links. It might be dates that have changed. It might be things that need updated. But you just need to keep your website fresh. So always have something that you've done to it, even if it's minor. Update it. Make sure it's current. Make sure you've got information, holidays, and things on that. SEO, which I'm going to talk about again in a second if I have time. But SEO is a big scary term, I think, for a lot of us. There are definitely some plugins and things that you can use if you have a WordPress installation. All-in-one SEO is a popular one. And if you install those things on your website, it's going to help you set up a website, a search engine system on your website, but it's not going to be ongoing. And to have to have a website that has been well optimized for search engines, you're going to have to spend probably at least 5 minutes a day on it. So we'll talk about that in a second. I know there might be a lot of questions on that, and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as I can. I'm not an SEO expert, but I do understand the importance of making that a daily habit. So we can talk about that again in a little bit. And then last but not least, blog. I know not everyone has a blog on their website, and so that might not necessarily be something for everyone, but if you can, I would actually encourage you to blog. I know that there are a lot of business mentors and coaches out there that say you don't necessarily need to have a blog, but as a business owner, I think you always have something to say, and I always think that I think not having a blog is missing out on an opportunity to educate your customer. So I'm not the best at it. I definitely have gone through periods of sporadic blogging, but if you can get a post up a week, that's great for your website system. Does anybody have any questions on that? Michelle has, in terms of metrics for website system, what is the best place to get training and understanding Google Analytics and SEO? If you will Google, Michelle, all-in-one SEO, it's an app. The developer of that, it's not an app, it's a word. That WordPress plugin has a very informative and very long blog post, but it's one of the best pieces of information I've ever read about how to get an SEO system up and running. It's working. Yay. Okay. Love technology. Love it. Okay, so we were talking briefly about, Johanna asked what about hiring a company blogger. And I would definitely, I'm all about delegating. So I would actually encourage that if you're at a point in your business where you can make sure that there's a return on investment there, that's definitely good advice. Katie asked, how relevant is blogging? I've read articles that say that blogging about. Yeah, Katie, I think that's a dangerous territory to go into. I think one of the best things that you can do as a business is position yourself as someone who, I know that not all of us are teachers, and that's a major learning curve I've been through this past year, but position yourself in a way to help your customers understand something. And the blog is a great way to do that. It's also a great way to, just having a current article on your blog says to anyone that finds your site, hey, I'm here. We're an active company. And if you can get a blog post up a week, that's definitely, it's called All-in-One. Yeah, it's a WordPress plugin. It's All-in-One SEO. Yep, you got it right, Michelle. I love it. Jen has a glass of wine. Okay, so let's talk about, we have some people, but there's some questions popping up about some different sections. I'm going to keep moving forward. And I'll come back to those things. If you guys, I'm going to try to answer questions about each section as we continue to plow forward. So the next system is the email system. And really, it's pretty basic. There are three things that I want to see any entrepreneur doing with an email system. Email system is so quickly forgotten. I think it's fun to design a logo and put up a new website, get a great brand feeling. But a lot of times I see, especially in creative entrepreneur world, people are neglecting their email system. And there are three things that you can do on a weekly basis on your email. The first one is collect. This just means you need a forum on your website where people can sign up to get information from you. A lot of times that in internet marketing world, people recommend an opt-in. I'm going to say right now, you don't even have to have that. Just have a forum on your website where people can sign up and connect with you if they want to. Don't make that decision for them. Let them make that decision about whether or not they want to sign up for your email newsletter. Second thing is connect. This just simply means staying in touch. It's kind of like blogging. But don't neglect the fact that you might have an audience on an email list that needs attention, just like an audience on social media might want to connect with you. So make sure that you're trying to connect via email once a week. And then the third thing is clean up. I went through a learning experience on this one with the launch of this e-course. We definitely are not a company that wants to ever send anybody email that doesn't want to receive email. And we don't use MailChimp. MailChimp is a great email system. If you're just getting started, I highly recommend it. You can get on board for free. We use a system called Infusionsoft. It's a little bit more complicated and hard to mess up. And we've definitely learned some things on that in the past couple of weeks. So make sure to keep your email list clean so that you're not spamming anybody and nobody's getting emails that they don't want. I try to be gracious about that always. Does anybody have any questions on email systems? If you're just starting out, Sarah, I would say use MailChimp. And there are a lot of other ones. Aweber is one. I use Infusionsoft. Yeah. Emma is another one. I don't have very much experience with that one, but there are some other ones you can look into them. Blair, if you can, I would say if you can email your customers once a week, that's really good. I don't always do that myself personally, but that's what this worksheet is for. This is a weekly basis thing. Get it done once a week. How do you separate different types of email sign-up? Katie, that's going to depend on what email system provider you choose. MailChimp actually has set lists. Infusionsoft has a way of tagging customers differently. I'm not as experienced with Aweber, but usually you can start to find people who are experts in those systems. And I would encourage you to, especially if you're making a jump from MailChimp to another system, which I would think you probably don't want to do in year 3 or 4 of business. You'll start to build a team around running a healthy email system. Johan, Infusionsoft is like it is complicated compared to MailChimp. I don't even run it all myself. Especially for launching this e-course, I have had to bring in a guru to help me do that. If you have a lot, the only reason I would tell you to choose Infusionsoft over MailChimp right now, and I would actually tell you that's not very good advice. MailChimp is free, and there are a lot of free apps out there. You need to use the free ones first. This is how you bootstrap. You use the free stuff first, and then you know when to make the jump. When you've got revenue to pay for it, then you can make a jump. Infusionsoft is a couple $100 a month, though, so I would never tell anybody starting out to use that. I would just tell you to be aware of it so that you can make that jump when you need to. So hopefully that makes sense. I want to be really clear that I don't want to steer anybody the wrong way. I love it. But I don't want anybody to overspend and find themselves in a bad financial situation. So the next email system, or the next system that we're going to talk about in your business, is your content system. And this is very easy. The whole point of a content system is to make sure that your messaging for your business stays clear and consistent. And so the challenge to you on a weekly basis is to clearly articulate in these 3 sections, or no more than 3 sections, what your messages are going to be for that week. So right now, for the past couple of weeks, my messages have all been the same. Number 1, I'm launching an e-course to help entrepreneurs. Number 2, we've got a collaboration for my other company, Data Designer, that's coming up that we're getting ready to just reveal more of. We've already sort of revealed it, and we're just going to be letting people know more about that. And number 3, that we've got our standard Data Designer edition coming in August. And so making sure that I am communicating those 3 things on a weekly basis is important. And those are the 3 main messages that I need to get across right now. So having those written down on that content system spot can just help keep me focused. I think especially as creatives, we all, I call it bright and shiny disease or bright and shiny syndrome. We just start chasing these things, you know. I posted pink flowers on Instagram the other day. I was like, oh, pink flowers, love it, right? Well, am I getting the message across? So you need to kind of come back to that. You'll probably know what I'm talking about. Does anybody have any questions on that system? Any questions? Just let me know if you do. I'll move on to the next system, which is social media. And you're going to use your messaging here as well. So that's what each of the 3 columns stand for. M1, M2, M3. Have you, and I put these 3 social media platforms up because I use these, but you might use different ones. You might use YouTube. You know, there are hundreds of social media platforms out there. So whatever audience you're trying to communicate with, the question on this is, have you communicated each of those 3 messages clearly that week? And so there's a spot for you to track all of that. Does that make sense? Is that good? Am I keeping everybody? Yep. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Just needed to make sure I didn't lose audio again. Thank you, guys. So let's talk about product system. And I saw that there was a question about products further up in the comments. And whoever said that, you're welcome to throw that out again. Let's talk about in products. So I don't know if you guys have heard. I know we have entrepreneurs of all levels in here, but the concept of a marketing funnel or a product or offering funnel. But it's so I don't want to scare anybody off here, but the concept is very simple. You'll have a free offering, and a lot of times this is your opt-in incentive. For me right now, this webinar is free. I mean, this is just very, something that you do for free. And this helps people get to know you, take you for a test drive, basically, try you out, see if they like you, see if they like your style, whatever. And so that's the point of having a free product. And then you want to have a low price product. You want to give people a chance to kind of dip their toe in the water and say, am I going to like this? They don't want to commit heavily financially, but they just want to taste. And then give them some place to go. And every time you ask somebody to move to a deeper price product, you're going to lose some customers. You're going to not necessarily lose customers, but you'll lose some interest. I mean, everyone's going to, move up the ladder to your highest price product. So the further you get into this, the fewer customers you actually have. So if you ever, start doing this and you start feeling like you have people unsubscribing off of your email list or unfollowing you off, your social media platforms, don't worry about it. It's just, it happens, and it means you're doing something right, actually. So this spot on the worksheet is just a place to kind of reflect on this on a weekly basis. Your free products might change from week to week. I mean, this week I'm doing this free webinar, and next week I might be doing something else. Your low price product might change or evolve over time. Your mid-tier products might change. Especially if you're in the service business, you might, if you're a graphic designer, you might have, different offerings at different seasons. You might be doing, websites in the summertime, and you might be helping people with email campaigns for Christmas promotions, during the holidays. So this can definitely change and evolve over the year, and reflecting back on a weekly basis, this again helps keep you focused and on target. Okay, so before I move forward, what were the questions about products? Somebody says, I've been avoiding Twitter. Do I think it's essential? No, I don't think it's essential, but if it works for you, I think it's good. Sarah had a question about content. What are the 3 content messages based on? It's really just whatever primary information you're trying to get across. So what is the number one thing you're trying to help your customer, your audience do? Try to help meet their needs. Go back to that customer A, E, I, O, and U. See if you can tie the message back to that. Let's see, what else? Okay, y'all are talking about Twitter. Just let y'all talk about that. Talk away. Talk amongst yourselves. How do you differentiate yourself when similar businesses are doing the same thing on social media like Facebook posts? I mean, to be totally honest, I just don't look. I look at the customer, not the competition. I think that's the secret to being unique. It's just keep trying to meet the customer's need and not looking at what other people do. How does the funnel work for companies selling physical goods? Sarah, it very much works the same way. It might be that you have a combination of maybe the free thing that you offer as a service. If you sell a physical product, maybe you offer a free webinar about how to use the product, or something like that. But you can low price downloads on your website, things like that, or even just low price and high price products. You could look at a product line concept of good, better, and best. Your low price is going to be your good level product, mid price is going to be the better product, high price product is going to be the best product. So that's another way you can look at that. A giveaway on the blog or Facebook. Sue, most of the time I would say a giveaway is more part of a like a community interaction. That's more of a, I think the purpose of a giveaway is to interact with your community and engage with your customer. I would consider that more of a customer than a free product activity, just because it's not going to be available to everyone. It's only going to be available to the person who wins. Welcome, Kate. Okay, we'll move on to the next system. And again, feel free to, somebody asked a product question back there, and if you have that question about products, feel free to throw that out and I could talk about that. The last system, the 7th system that we're going to talk about is the administrative system. And every entrepreneur needs a strong administrative system in their business. As creatives, and I know that maybe not everyone on this email or on this webinar is necessarily a creative entrepreneur. When I say creative entrepreneur, I don't necessarily mean somebody who has to design anything or draw anything. I just mean somebody who has an idea and probably a less traditional way about going about implementing that into business. So I feel like those of us in that category struggle with these administrative details just because they're not our strength. Most creatives are not going to be big on managing finances, dealing with legal structure. Creatives tend to live in a gray world, and lawyers and accountants live in a world that's very black and very white. So a lot of times they don't even know, even when we hire lawyers and CPAs or whatever, sometimes they don't even know how to communicate with us. And that's one struggle I've run into as an entrepreneur. And after being in business for 14 years, is part of why I want to offer this e-course, because I've tried to figure out how to make these systems work for me. I've tried to, understand what do I need to be doing from a financial aspect, which is the biggest and most important part of the administrative system is the financial system in it. And if I can figure out how to make these systems simple enough for me to use, and also pretty, because, right, we want the worksheets to look cute, and sometimes, the accountants don't take that into consideration, right? But if I can make this usable for myself, then I can make it usable for others. And that's definitely one of the reasons why I have wanted to do this e-course, is just to really help people understand what's worked for me, especially on this second go round with my second business. But let me walk through these administrative details. The first one, do, simply means what's coming up. And I talk to my accountant or my bookkeeper once a week, and she'll say, well, coming up, you've got this kind of tax that's due, or you've got this expense that's due, or you've got this, bill that's coming up due. And she's just kind of got her eye on what's around the bend for me. And this is a reminder, especially if you're early on in business, you might be doing your own bookkeeping. This line is just a reminder to you to look at that once a week. What's coming up? Don't focus just on this week, but think about what are you going to have to do around the bend. The second point on this is your team. And even if you are a solopreneur, have 0 employees, in fact, most of my team is all freelancers, independent contractors. I have actually only one official employee on staff right now. But nevertheless, making sure everybody feels like a team, even if they're not all in the same location. Making sure that your team feels special and cared for, things like that. This is a spot to remind you to do on a weekly basis. You could write thank you notes to everybody. You could, if you're all in the same location, we've gone and done pedicures before, but try to remember to acknowledge, even if you're just texting everybody in your team to say thank you or good job or you guys are awesome. Make sure to express your gratitude. I think that's an important part of business. Everything else in the administrative, I'm gonna talk you through. It is a dive into finance, so if I lose you, feel free to ask for clarification. This is all about money. Okay, I have a couple of people that said audio is cutting in and out. I hope we're good. Okay. On a weekly basis, the first thing that I would encourage you to do, and you can do this if you have QuickBooks or you can do this manually. You can calculate it by hand if you need to. But what your gross income is. For anyone that's just joining us, it took me forever to figure out the difference between gross income and net income. Gross just means how much money did you have, what were your sales, what were your total sales. Gross means total. So write in your total a number of sales in that top line. Then in the second line, tally your expenses for the week. And this is going to be the materials that you bought, if you're making physical products, how much were your materials that week. If you offer a service product, this is going to be maybe advertising expenses, or if you're doing something local, you pay for somebody's coffee, it's going to be that kind of thing. So then put your expense line in the next line. And then you need to come up with a net income. Net income is very simply, you take your gross or your total income, subtract your expenses, and you've got your net after that. If you're using an accounting program like QuickBooks, I use a program called Xero. It's spelled Xero. If you're using something like that, you can actually pull a report that will tell you this information, and you can print out that report and enter this information right here. Now, what I'm getting ready to tell you to do, no one told me to do for the first 10 years I was in business. This is something that I figured out to do in the past 2.5 years. And this, what I'm getting ready to tell you, changed the course of my business completely and totally. This is the most valuable piece of information you will get in this webinar. And I'm not kidding. This is something no one told me to do. This is something I completely came up with on my own. But once you get that net number, that net income number right there, you need to calculate the percentage that you're going to use for taxes, the percentage you want to contribute to charity, and the percentage that you want to calculate for savings. So this is going to be different for everybody, especially depending on what country you're living in or what state for taxes and things like that. But just to give you some example numbers, you could estimate about 25 to 35% for taxes. And so calculate the percentage of net. Calculate here. I need to make sure I do this correctly. Take your net income and calculate the percentage of taxes, and then write that number in that box. So let's say your net income was $100 and you're using the 25% tax bracket. You're going to need to put $25 of that $100 into a separate account. And I think for creatives, it's really important for it to be a separate account, because that way you don't look at and think you have money that you don't have. But set that aside for taxes, either quarterly taxes or year-end taxes or whatever you've discussed with your accountant. And we talk more about the financial aspect of things in the e-course. We actually dive deeper into all of this in the e-course. This is just a high-level overview on this. In the net line, the charity line, or this could be a tithe, calculate what percentage. And so a lot of times people use 10% on that one. So if your net income was $100, you would take out your $25 for taxes and your $10 for charity at a 10% rate. And a savings account. And I would encourage you to have yet another account. I would encourage you to have actually three bank accounts. And maybe not right when you start, but as you start to generate profit, I would definitely try to start implementing this system as soon as you can. It's probably going to be hard at first just because there's not always a ton of money there, but as soon as you start to get profitable, start to try to practice this. But I would encourage you to try to save the same percentage as you're saving for taxes. So if you save 25% for taxes, save 25% for savings as well. So just to use that example, if we had $100 of net income, $25 goes to taxes, $25 is going to savings, $10 is going to charity. So $60 of that net income would go out into each of those buckets. And then you'd have $40 left in your business bank account. And of course, as your sales increase, the dollar amount you'll have left over will increases too. So it may seem challenging to think about dog-earing. You're basically tagging all of that money for a specific purpose early on. But it really prevents you from overspending. It prevents you from getting into a financial pickle. Prevents you from spending money that you think you have that you don't. And then you can, in that bottom line there, you can again calculate upcoming expenses. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Okay, questions on this one. Sarah says, can gross income be gross revenue? Yes, it can. Johan says, is the admin column ideal to work on before the start of the week? Projections are at the end of the week, actual. I think you could do whatever works for you. So if you're working on at the beginning of the week, actually calculate it for the week before. If you're going to actually use that for that week, maybe do it at the end of the week. Or you could, at the beginning of the next week, you could fill out the previous week's worksheet, if that makes sense. Working account, tax account, savings account, yes, Janice. If your weekly net is negative, if you're ever in a negative net income, your expenses have exceeded your gross revenue. So you don't want to stay there very long, for sure. I realize that there are some fluctuation, but you will only calculate those numbers and when you have a positive. So if you have a negative net, you don't necessarily, you can't go in and save for taxes and charity and finance, and savings. But when you have a positive, make sure you don't skip it. So thank you, Michelle, for posting that link to that worksheet. Love it when you guys do that. So the last two boxes, I'll touch on really briefly. We've got, this is just this next box, this daily box, is just a box to record daily activity. So I would encourage you to spend, 5 minutes a day on SEO, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. This is just a little place for you to put a check mark beside that. Email, just for me, it's a challenge getting into my inbox, answering emails on a daily basis. But if I'll do it 5 or 10 minutes a day, I don't have to sit down and do it 3 or 4 hours every other week. So that's a reminder for that right there. Quit. I got this from a guy named Bob Goff, who wrote a book called Love Does. Some of you guys may have heard of him, but he always tells people to quit something on Thursday. And hands down, I think we are so good at overcommitting ourselves these days that I love to just look at my to-do list and cross something off. Just really say, I'm not going to do it. Like, this is a thing that doesn't matter in comparison to other things that are on my to-do list and that are more important. And so I'm just not going to do it. Like, I'm just going to quit this one. I'm not saying, you need to be good on your promises and your integrity and things like that. So I'm not saying to just, give up on the things you've committed to. There is a good thing in finishing what you start, but giving yourself permission to scratch the things on your to-do list that really aren't going to move the needle, and maybe are just things that you've said you would do for people out of favor or because you want people to like you or things like that. I think we all need permission to let go of those every now and then. So maybe you don't want to use it every day, but Bob Goff would tell you to at least use it on Thursday. Okay, and then let's see. And the last thing, I hopped over to see if there are any more questions. And so the last box is just a spot for you to put just a monthly overview in. I don't know that necessarily you want every week, but some people will probably want to get the dates in for that month and, look at what they've got coming up over the coming weeks. So that's just a little reminder, a little spot you can use for upcoming stuff right there. So this is definitely something that we're going to dive deeper in the e-course. We got really deep into it right now, but I've got some experts and stuff that are going to be coming back to talk to people in the course about that. And does anybody have any questions about anything I didn't cover? Does anybody have any questions about the course? I am so excited to teach it for the very first time. I spent so much time developing this content and even more stuff like this, and definitely interacting with you guys and the questions you ask and things like that help make all of this better. Will the e-course be valuable for a business owner that's already overwhelmed and frustrated but didn't start with a plan? Yeah, Rebecca, I think so. It's definitely about looking at individual things and going back and just saying, you can't fix it all at once, but you can fix one thing at a time. So this is where I'm going to start right now. One day at a time. It's definitely not designed to be overwhelming at all. I think you can take it at your own pace and really enjoy it. Janice is answering the question about quit. Yeah. Kat, the e-course will be, it's all been pre-recorded on video. I have two videographers that I've worked with. My friend Wes Wages, who lives in Alabama and actually records video. If you're into, if you're thinking about doing your own e-course, I would recommend looking at him. So he's pre-recorded that. We are going to do some live Q&As, some live webinars, and I will totally. I love interacting with people. So especially if you don't mind me jumping on the webinar without makeup on, I would love to do some live stuff and interact with you guys. Yes, there will be a schedule for that. Yeah, Rebecca, I think part of it's just we all need better plans and better systems. And I think part of that comes into play in community. And when you can join a community that has a shared language and you can say, I'm really working on my customer system right now. Does anybody have any recommendations for this? Or I feel like my content system's kind of getting out of play, or I'm not executing on it really well. So we've got forums and everything where you're going to be able to talk about that. And we've got some fun stuff about entrepreneurial archetypes and what type of business owner are you, and things like that, to help everybody kind of get to know each other better and be able to be valuable feedback for each other. This webinar is going to be, this recording is going to be available for folks in the e-course. I am going to try to get a replay up that'll be available for about 24 hours. So definitely, if you're on our email list, check that. Wes's name, Wes Wages. There you go. Michelle wrote it. Awesome. And then also another friend of mine, Lene Photography. I'll type that. She's here in Oklahoma City. She's done a couple videos that y'all will see in the next couple days. She did a cute little, I say it's cute, it's just me being me. Okay, Susan asked about, hi Susan, it's so good to see her, about the mastermind group. We are doing mastermind groups on the top 2 levels of the course, and the very top level is actually going to be a mastermind group that I lead. So no more than 10 people in that group. If we have to, we'll break into 2 or 3 groups. But we'll be using a format that I have used in a live mastermind group with some very close, or now they're close, business friends of mine for the past 10 years. So it's a proven format. I'll be teaching in the second tier. I'll be teaching the group how to use that mastermind format, and then they will be leading the groups independently, and then I'll be in the highest tier. I'll actually be participating in those groups. So let me know if I can. That's a brief overview on that. Let me know if I can explain that in any deeper. Lauren, that we actually don't have a payment plan for the lowest package right now. Yes, we can upgrade. I think, I have to say think, because we haven't actually figured out what the structure on this is going to be. But I'm really hoping that the mastermind groups are something that provide a lot of value, and we may even try to carry that forward for those who want to stay involved in that level. The whole course is going to be lifetime access. So anybody who signs up now is going to be, we'll get all the additional content that comes along later as members ask more questions, and we further build out the content. There is also, last year I ran, I did a little course that was a lot more about branding and personal development, and really the Biz Designers course is sort of an offshoot of that. The feedback from that group was that they loved it, but they really wanted more business advice. So I've really gone back to the drawing board on that, and they've all been grandfathered into that as well. So a couple of those gals might be upgrading to the masterminds as well. Sarah says, what's a mastermind group? A mastermind group is, the best way to describe it is just a group of people who are really committed to giving each other feedback and sharing experiences, learned experiences. It's the best way to do a mastermind group is to find a group of people that are really committed to each other, and not, you don't want people in the mastermind group that are going to miss meetings or things like that. So the structure that I'll be teaching inside the Biz Designers course is one that I've used for 10 years, and will be. So you'll get to know, if you decide to be the mastermind group, you'll get to know the people in your group really well based on this format. So we'll also make sure that we're matching people up well, and we'll be working with you guys on that. Sarah says, cash flow is an issue. Sarah, right now we don't have any payment plans on that, but I will totally, if that changes, I will totally look you up and let you know. We're not against considering that, so we'll definitely think about that. I am so grateful to all of you guys for spending the time to listen to me. More questions. Will cash flow be covered in the course? Rebecca, I have an expert. I have a financial advisor that I talk to once a week, and he has agreed to come on board during the course and not only do just a session on business, on finance management for creative entrepreneurs, but he's agreed to do a live Q&A with us. So we definitely can touch on that as well. And that's a smart question. One of the wisest businessmen I know, and one of my mentors, told me when I started my business 14 years ago that the number one thing I needed to focus on in my business was after-tax cash flow. So after-tax cash flow, just remember that. Moya, it's a customer section, your ideal customer. I think we'll definitely talk a little bit more about that in the course, and you're already in there. But I do think that can change. I think you start out with an ideal customer, and then you have to kind of be willing to shift. And I'll definitely be talking about in Day Designer how that shift happened. When I created a product for myself, and so I called it for creative entrepreneurs, and then everyone started coming and telling me that they loved it, and they weren't creative, and they weren't an owner, and so we've really had to pivot on that. We'll talk more about that in the course. Yes, there are branding classes in the course. We will be doing that in the 5th module, actually. And if you're on the email list, there's an email coming out tomorrow that does a brief overview on what each of the modules. And I'm thinking about doing another webinar or an audio webinar like this on Wednesday night where I talk through all the 5 modules. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know. What would your advice be for that, Kate? That's a question I would ask. I would ask inside the course, actually, to my financial advisor, because I think the answer could be different for everybody, and he would answer that better than me. Barry, the scholarship contest is actually randomly chosen, so we'll announce that Wednesday morning, really early Wednesday morning. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love your questions. I'm also going to have to go. Okay, Janice. Okay, awesome. Does the course access work at different levels? Yeah. The people who buy in right now will get access to all new content. This definitely time around for this, and we're definitely trying to give everybody that's getting in on this level, like the early bird, the first mover advantage, I guess is the best way to call that. So, and Jen asked if I had to spend time on which do I pick, emailing or blogging? That's a tough question. I would tell you to go every other week. Email one week, blog the next week. How's that for straddling the fence? I'll be touching on these topics at Alt Summit dinner, or is it more focused on Day Designer? Okay, so I guess that rumor has officially gotten out. I am speaking at Alt Summit this summer. For those of you who are going to be there, I'm excited about it. I wasn't sure if people had known that yet or not. They posted today. That's crazy. Okay, I will be at Alt Summit. I'm going to be talking more about personal productivity and definitely not as much business. The information in the course is definitely extremely business oriented. And whenever I work on Day Designer stuff, I approach that from less business minded and more I kind of use the personal side of my life more to approach the data designer stuff, even though I use my data designer for my business. The content of this course is you're getting a lot of people are going to kind of get a side of me they haven't seen before. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. One more thing. If you're interested in joining the course and you do want to register tonight, we have some really cool freebies that we are going to be giving you guys. And if you're interested in registering tonight, forward me your receipt and we will actually send you a May edition Day Designer as a little bonus for signing up. Just a little thank you. Forward me your receipt if that's something you want to do. And there's a lot more fun stuff coming, and I'll make sure you guys get it, but I wanted to do that little something special for you guys tonight. So, Moya, you just email me. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening, and thank you guys so much again. I'm so grateful. So glad you were all here. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.